Hello again. The immediate and instinctive response from any right-thinking individual to the question posed in the title of this video will probably be, not in the slightest degree is Diane Abbot at all trustworthy or reliable. I am of course aware that Diane Abbot is for some people either a figure of fun or the object of intense dislike. Many people think that she's an incompetent idiot who has only survived on the opposition front benches for so long because of her gender and the colour of her skin. There's more to Diane Abbot though than meets the eye. For one thing, she's not the fool some people take her for. She got a place at Cambridge University in the early 1970s to read history. It was a lot harder to get in those days than it is now. So she had to have a certain amount of intelligence to get that far. Later on, she was in a special programme for senior civil servants to rise quickly through the ranks, although she abandoned that. I lived in Hackney when she was first elected the Member of Parliament there, and I used to see her socially before she was voted in 1987. One of the things which I did notice particularly was that she used to adapt her personality and the way that she talked according to whom she was with. She's fairly well spoken. She mixes with a lot of professional people and so on. But with black people, she used to talk with an assumed Jamaican accent, even though she was born in London. I had her pegged in those days as a bit of an actor. After she replaced Ernie Roberts as the MP, Red Robbo as he was known then, Abbott threw herself into trying to look and appear like a black activist rather than a sharp and unscrupulous woman on the make, which is what I thought she was. I soon realised that she would lie or tell any silly story if it would enhance her reputation as a militant black politician. In August 1987, a couple of months after she had been elected to Parliament, I found myself at the South African Women's Day festival held in Finsbury Park. The thumbnail to this video shows a poster for the event. I went because Angela Davis was speaking and I wanted to hear her. Unexpectedly, Diane Abbot also muscled in on the act. She'd only been an MP for a couple of months. I assumed that she thought that appearing on a platform with Angela Davis and a few women from Onkonto Wesizwe, the spear of the nation, would persuade folk that she was a right-on black militant. It was a terrible mistake. The women Angela Davis and Ruth Mompati both told anecdotes about the armed struggle and being in prison and so on. Ruth Mompati went on about the massacres at Sharpeville and Soweto. Of course, Abbott had lived a fairly quiet and respectable life and she couldn't match any of this. When it was her turn to speak, she came up with something, a terrible lie. Ruth Mompati had been talking about the police shooting people down at Soweto. So Abbott said that if it were wrong for the police in South Africa to shoot black people, then it was equally wrong for the British police to shoot black people, as they had done Colin Roach. I knew then that she was a liar who would say anything she thought the black people wanted to hear. Colin Roach was a black guy with severe mental health problems. In 1983, he walked into the foyer of Stoke Newington Police Station carrying a 12-bore shotgun and then put it in his mouth and pulled the trigger, blowing his head off. Some black people in the area tried to make out that he had actually been killed by the police, but this was just ridiculous. And what's more, Diane Abbot knew very well that it was absurd to blame the police for Colin Roach's death, but she did not hesitate to exploit his death for her own ends. Any respect I'd had for her vanished that day, I'm afraid. I was reminded of this when I saw the tweet which she made about the shooting of Sasha Johnson. Again, she knows at least as much about black gangland violence as anybody else. They used to call Hackney's Clapton Road Murder Mile locally because of the number of black gangsters who were shot there. She knew perfectly well, even when she was making that tweet, that Sasha Johnson had not been shot because she was a member of the Black Lives Matter movement. She must have known that in Peckham the only people firing guns off in a random and dangerous fashion are likely to be black gangsters. Another thing about Abbott is her awful hypocrisy about the police. In public she adheres to the standard left-wing black line that the police are all racist thugs and killers and little better than the Ku Klux Klan. However, when her son went crazy and was trying to hack her up with a pair of scissors, she locked herself in a bedroom, and who do you suppose she telephoned? Perhaps some of her fellow black activists? The duty social worker, social services in Hackney? Mental health team? Relatives? It was none of these, of course. She phoned the police so that they could rescue her and then arrest her son. He was sent to a secure hospital, but not before appearing in court for a string of offences against NHS staff, assaults and so on. I mentioned yesterday that Sasha Johnson was on bail relating to a charge of racially aggravated harassment. Diane Abbot's son was also convicted of a racist offence, racially aggravated criminal damage. He attacked a nurse in a hospital, smashed up her glasses while saying, "Bitch, you think you are white? You want some of this?" Real charmer. My own view of Diane Abbot is that she's a chancer and will say and do anything at all which advances her own interests. And if that includes creating racial tensions, I don't think she cares. I've heard her lie about things with my own ears, and so find her anything but a trustworthy individual. Pretending that Sasha Johnson had been attacked by political opponents of her black activism was pretty well par for the course for Abbott, and I was not in the least surprised to see that she used the Black Lives Matter hashtag as well.